Okay, we'll do an equipment check on this big Ingersoll roller. We'll start right here. Start looking at tires. Look for any cracks, any big cuts. You want to look at your tread for the same thing, any big cuts in it. Check your lug nuts and your wheels. Lug nuts make sure they're all tight. They're not working loose. Come up to the engine, you want to look at all your hoses. Look for any major leaks on the motor. Don't see anything. The exhaust looks good. Intake looks good. You want to check belts. Make sure that belt's in good shape, no cracks. Want to check the guarding on the radiator, the fan, radiator mounts, all that looks good. Your fuel tank's here, fuel cap, make sure that's in place. Your radiator, it's clean. There's nothing blocking it from cooling. Want to check your hood hinges, make sure they're all in place. All the bolts look good. The way you unlock this is you push that button and then you pull this back. It's fairly heavy. When there's snow on it, it's a chore to open. Plus it'll try to fall on you. Okay, everything looks good. The hinges, there's your antifreeze, the catch can, it's about where it should be, a little bit high. And you'll want to check the oil. Here's the dipstick, and there is the oil fill. So these, you want to pull them out and then wipe it off and put it all the way back in and wait a minute. And then pull it out and check and make sure it's in the safe zone. Your guarding looks good, all the bolts look in place. Fuel filters, motor looks good. The air intake, all the bolts are good. Everything looks good. The exhaust on these are underneath, hard to see. It's right there. The bolts holding it look good, they look all in place. While you're here, look for any oil leaks on the ground where the machine's been setting. You'll see if it's leaking. Another tire, look for any bad cuts, that's nothing. All of it looks good. You want to check your lug nuts again. Make sure there's no oil leaking out of these fillers. All looks good. Your rope structure, you want to look for any cracks. Make sure that's solid. Look at the bolts that hold it on, make sure they are tight in place. There's your hydraulic pump lines. That's for the drive on your rear axle. There's your hydraulic tank, the sight glass for it. You want to make sure that's full. That's all your information right there on the machine. Steering rams, make sure these pins are in place. There's a big pin that goes all the way through this that holds the machine together. So you definitely want to make sure them bolts are in on the retainers. And there's some bolts on that one too, a big nut. There's a pivot pin with a big nut on it. I don't know if you guys can see it. That goes all the way through. It's right there. There's the other end. You want to make sure all that's good and tight. Your cab mounts look good. It's a horn, orbital valve for the steering. Make sure there's no leaks or oil coming out of there. Hydraulic lines all look good. You want to look in these corners. Right here where it's welded. Down in here, make sure there's no cracks. That's what holds the machine together. You want to look at these scrapers, make sure they're all in place. This drum is made to have a sheep's foot clamshell over it, so it has teeth instead of a straight edge on it. That's why you see those grooves. Make sure all these bolts that hold it together is in place. Make sure they're not working their way out or turning. You want to look inside here. There's rubber pads that hold this drum on the machine. Make sure all these bolts are tight. These rubber pads are not cracked or tearing. And you want to look at your vibrator or drive motors. Look for any leaks. You'll see these leaking on the bottom. You'll usually see oil on the drum if they're bad. Make sure all the bolts are good in there. Everything looks tight. It's kind of hard for you guys to see in there. Look for hydraulic leaks on the lines. Some more scrapers down in here. Make sure they're all in place. Everything looks good. Sounds like a hood just blew down. The bolts, everything over here, same thing. A lot of bolts. Look inside this drum. Rubber pads. Make sure they're not tearing. These things give way, it's going on the ground. Another drive motor, vibrator motor. Make sure these are not leaking oil. Okay, it looks a little black in this drum, but it's just dirt. There's no real oil leaks, can't see any oil. Same thing over here, steering rim. Make sure the retainers are in place that holds it. No cracks anywhere. Cab mounts. Want to make sure all the railings in place. That on a compactor will usually crack. Your handhold steps. There's the main battery shut off. The batteries on these machines are bolted behind these covers, so we can't access them to check them. Rope structure, the mounting bolts for it, make sure these are tight. Okay? We'll get up in it, have a look at that. Okay, now we're up here. You want to check fire extinguisher. Check tags, dates, look at the gauge. Check your seat that it's securely mounted. It's getting a little weathered. Want to look at seat belt, make sure it was working. Okay. Now, these Ingersolls are cold-blooded, so this ain't gonna want to start. You want to make sure the park switch is on, park brake. And your shifter's got to be in neutral. You usually got to wiggle them. Okay, we'll check the horn and we'll turn the lights on so we can see what's up with them. Okay, the warning light for the engine oil and that's on, the battery, glow plug light. It's got fuel. We'll go check the lights. Yep. Got one light on the back burned out. Okay, we'll get back up here and turn everything off. I showed you the steering worked okay. The park brake, when I was moving it, it stopped it. We checked all the functions of the machine so we know it works. This is the emergency shut off. If there's ever a problem, all you got to do is hit that, push it down, and it'll kill the motor and stop you. To reset these, you have to turn them and pull them up. And now it's ready to run again. Okay, we'll go do the paperwork. Okay, we'll finish out the paperwork on this machine. I like to walk around the machine, look at it, check all these things, and then sit down and fill this out. I want to put the unit number, the date, the hour meter. We check the coolant bottle, we check the engine oil, we check the fuel gauge, we check the hydraulic tank sight glass. There's no transmission, it's all hydrostatic drive. We can't see the battery, we can't get to it. We looked at belts and hoses. We heard the backup alarm. The exhaust looked good. Fire extinguisher looked good. It's in place, mounted securely. We tried the park brake or emergency brake. All the gauges, warnings seem to be working. There is no heater. We checked the horn. We checked the lights. We need to write that one back light up. There's no mirrors. We looked at the rope structure. We checked the seat and seat belts. We checked the steering. There is no windows, no cab, no wipers. There's no bucket or blade connections. We did look at the drum, so we're going to put that. All the covers and guards are in place. The scrapers that clean the drum are in place. The hydraulic lines all look good. No major leaks. There's no rollers or idlers. Steps and ladders are in place. Tires look good. Front drum looks good. We'll call that a wheel or a rim, whatever. All that looks good. It's been greased. And you need to sign this saying you did check this machine. Right, left, rear, light. And then the location, Spanish Fork, yard. And you're done.